Welcome to the first edition of Flyer Nation. I'm Reid Pohland. During the series, we'll be sitting down with various members of the different athletic programs and taking a deeper dive into your favorite teams here at Lewis. Today, we'll be spotlighting the men's soccer program, and I'll be joined by two special guests, Coach Evan Fiffles and midfielder Timm Adler. To start off, I'm joined by Coach Evan Fiffles, head coach of the men's soccer team. Thanks for joining us, Coach.
Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
So, Coach, during your coaching career, you have assembled quite an impressive list of accomplishments. You've coached here at Lewis for 27 seasons, and you've been named GLVC Coach of the Year and have the most victories in the school's history. You also have had 10 players named to the All-American list. In your opinion, what has been your biggest accomplishment of your career coaching so far?
Oh, well, I think as a coach, your biggest thing is just the journey with each young man. I think that's the most important thing. Each year, as a coach, you have a different group of guys right there, and just mixing athletics and academics and what their objectives and what their goals are in life. And I think the more I could go ahead and reach with each individual, so when they leave here with that degree right there, that we have prepared them and set them up for future success in life, that's the most important thing.
Sure, so you're looking for that impact both on and off the field.
Most definitely.
Perfect. So, as a coach, what is the most rewarding part of your job, getting to coach all these college athletes, whether it be on the field or off the field? What would you see as most rewarding?
I think exactly on the same kind of subject. Years after a young man leaves and plays for me and graduates, getting that phone call, getting that email, and saying, you know what, those words and those values that you try to go ahead and implement with us, that now I see it. I might not have saw it during my 4 years here, but now I see a lot of it makes sense, and they use a lot of that in their, in their life.
Sure. You talked about players coming back to you and contacting you after they've graduated. What's one memory that sticks out from a player contacting you after they've graduated?
I think the biggest is just when an individual, what they're doing in their profession at that point, when they can relate it to athletics. I think there's a lot of crossover between academics and athletics, and even in their profession at that point. And it may be just being on time, and just being a person that's loyal and just trustworthy at that point, being a good person. I think when they come back and they've maybe not have done that during their 4 years, but they see the importance of that and they've carried it throughout their life.
Sure, kind of goes to show that being an athlete kind of carries on off the field as well and really can impact a lot of parts of your life. So as a coach, you've been coaching for 27 years. How would you describe your coaching style throughout that time?
Well, I think it's changed a lot. I've coached since 1983, so that's 36 years. And I think, like any profession, you have to change with the times. If you're not changing with the times, if you're not adjusting your style, I think it's just, you're not meeting, reaching your potential. And as long as I coach, I feel that I could always learn. So maybe, 2-3 decades ago, my personality maybe was a little bit more demanding in a sense. I'm still demanding, but just a little bit more persuasive in a sense, where now I think it's a little bit different, where it's just, I don't know if you'd say mellow. We're still demanding at that point, but I think it's just a different relationship that I have with the players now than maybe 30 years ago.
Sure. So you talked a little about how your coaching style has changed. What do you think has been the reason for that change? Is it kind of the different group of guys that you come in? Has it been you getting more mature as a coach as you kind of
I think it's both.
Your career?
I think individuals have changed. Okay, I think the environment that I grew up in is different than 20 years ago, 15 years ago, 10, 5. So what the situation that the young men that are coming in, their kind of formative years is different. So we have to go ahead and adjust, and I have to adjust as a coach to understand what's important to the young man now, because I think it is different than 5 years ago, 10, 15, 25 years ago.
Sure. All right, we're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we'll have more of Coach Fiffles. Welcome back to Flyer Nation. I'm once again joined by Lewis men's soccer head coach, Evan Fiffles. Thanks for joining us again, Coach.
Thank you.
You've obviously had a successful career as a coach. What is something you do to condition your players during the season?
Well, the biggest thing with the fall, playing in the fall, is the 3 months that they're on their own. So that's probably our biggest thing, because we don't have a lot of time. When they came in this year, we had 2 weeks before our first game. So the spring season is very important to go ahead and implement that kind of strong mentality that they have to go ahead and carry over for 3 months because they're on their own at that time. And it's difficult for the new players coming in. So it's an ongoing process throughout the year, but trying to stress as much as possible that summer and what they're going to be doing for those 3 months so they come in as much as possible game shape and ready to go 100%. And we're not using that time to build up because we just don't have that time to go ahead and to work on up to, at that high level.
Sure. We touched on this a little bit earlier. Off-the-field relationships are sometimes just as important or as more important than on-field relationships. How do you and your team build these relationships, and is there any way that you have special team building activities that you do with your team?
Yeah, we had a couple of this preseason. We had the Marines come on out for an afternoon. They put us through a couple of sessions and just things that they work on to go ahead, because it's the same kind of mentality in the sense that you have to work together. There's no I in a team moving forward at that point. So that's our big thing right there. And I think nowadays also just getting involved more than than on the field, the off-field classes and the relationships that they're carrying through their 4 years here also.
Sure. Let's talk a little bit more about those off-field relationships. Once a player graduates, how do you try to kind of maintain a relationship with them even when they're not playing for you anymore?
Well, the biggest thing is obviously through contact, email, and phone. We want to go ahead and we say it's just not when I recruit an individual here, we don't tell them that's a 4-year commitment. It's a lifelong commitment, and especially if they're going to stay in the Chicagoland area. They're still an hour, 2 hours from campus right here. So we want them to go ahead and continue that relationship. So moving forward, if they get married, if they have a family, we want them to come on back. So we see that. We see that now in our alumni days and in the games. And I think that's the big plus with Lewis, being close to Chicago, that a lot of the alumni are still in the area and they could come on back and they could stay connected throughout their entire life.
Sure. Looking at your roster, you have a lot of players who have traveled longer distances to come here play at Lewis. What's kind of your process for recruiting players that kind of come from further away? Does it change from players that may be close to the area, and if so, how does it differ?
Our number one objective is we want to be successful with local Chicagoland players. That's our number one objective. If our last Final Four team in 2009 was 95% Chicagoland. But each year, if we can't find a player to fill the need that we have for that year, then we'll look into the surrounding states. So I think we have a player from Wisconsin this year, Ohio, Kansas, Virginia. So we'll look in the Midwest area. And then the next level, usually around December or January, if we still have needs that we have not filled, then we look at the international side right there. And so last year, I'd gone to Nigeria for about 4 days, and then I went over to Europe, to England for about 5 days, and they'll have combines there at that point where we could go ahead and see anywhere from 60 to 100 players within a couple of days.
We want to thank you, Coach, for talking with us today. When we get back, I'll be joined by one of the players from the Lewis men's soccer team, Captain Timm Adler. Stay tuned. Welcome back to Flyer Nation. I'm now joined by one of the captains, Timm Adler. Thanks for joining us today, Timm. Start off with, how long have you been playing soccer, and was there a certain person that influenced you to start playing?
Yeah, I think I started playing soccer when I was 4 years old, and just a simple way, like my brother started to play and I always used to watch him, so I started playing because of him.
Sure, so you've been playing for a little bit. Let's talk about your position. You play midfield.
Yeah.
Is this the same position you played throughout your whole career, or has it changed throughout?
Mainly I played center mid, but because I'm a left-footed guy, and there's like a lack of left-footed players, I sometimes went to the left side, but normally I always played the center mid position.
Who and what influenced you to come play here at Lewis?
So first of all, I wanted to go to the US overall because here you can like combine soccer and school, and in Germany it's not possible as well as here. And then when it came to schools, for me it's very important, like the character of the coach. And so I listened to a couple of the coaches, and when I talked to this coach, he was all about like hard working, and it fit my character the best, I think.
Perfect. All right, well, we're going to take a quick break, but we'll be back with Timm Adler right after this. Welcome back to Flyer Nation. I'm once again joined by Timm Adler. What's your team's training and practice schedule look like this season?
So we have one day off a week, and the other days we just practice. So most of the time it's like Mondays for the players that played much, they have like a recovery session, and then we slowly build it up throughout the week. And the last practice before the games, we only do restart.
So do you and your team have any special routines, and is there something specific you do before a practice or game to get ready?
For the whole team, we usually get up in a circle and then we talk about the goals we want to achieve before the game. So parts like the mentality we have or something special play-wise we want to achieve. For me personally, I always go shower cold. Yeah, that makes me feel better, and like the blood circulation is better for me.
Sure, just something to get you started for the game. All right, we're going to take a quick break, but when we'll be back, we'll be joined by both Coach Evan Fiffles and Timm Adler to get their perspective and goals on the rest of the season. Welcome back to Flyer Nation. I'm joined by both Coach Evan Fiffles and midfielder Timm Adler. To begin, do both of you have any specific goals you wish to accomplish this season, both as a team or for you, Timm, individually?
You want to talk individually first?
Yeah, so for me, it's my last year, my senior year, and for me, like a special accomplishment would be, first of all, like to get a ring, and then second of all, to get on the black wall there, where all the achievements are at.
And you, Coach, any specific goals for the team?
I think overall is just improving each game. I think we have a very talented group this year, and I think through training and each week, if we just keep on progressing and work towards, just getting better, then I think we'll be a tough team to beat throughout the year.
Sure. All right, and what do you plan to implement to continue improving for the rest of the season?
Well, the biggest thing this year is this is our biggest group ever. So we got almost close to 40 players. So we started a reserve team this year for the first time ever. So it's the mentality of the players and keeping them sharp. So if they're not on the first team, they're not getting games, we want them training hard throughout the week. And they'll get some extra games with the reserve team. But I think the psyche and the mentality of the players throughout the fall is going to be crucial in keeping everybody, bought in what we're doing and staying connected.
Sure, you talk about being locked in mentally. Timm, is there anything that you do specifically before a game or even during games throughout the whole season to kind of stay focused on that end goal? Anything that helps you kind of keep that in sight?
No, I always keep reminding the players that we have like an imaginary wall we want to build. And we always say that if we want to build the highest wall, we have to set each brick perfectly. So we have to keep on the progress.
Perfect. That's all for this episode of Flyer Nation. I want to thank both our guests, Coach Evan Fiffles and midfielder Timm Adler, for joining us today. Thank you so much. I hope you keep watching more Flyer Nation. I'm Reid Pohland. Thanks for watching.